Yeah, normally this would be the time that you would see the intro and whatnot. Not today. This is an addendum, if you will, to Tuesday's podcast. And this is probably coming out, Wednesday's podcast. And this is probably coming out, I don't know, maybe Thursday before the unboxing, before the bundle box breaking, so to speak, for Dragonstorm. I still stand by the podcast that dropped on Wednesday, episode 10, where it was nothing but Path of Exile 2 over the course of two things. And I'm also going to be recording the Magic the Gathering stuff today as well, because that's still somewhat topical. I'm going to be a week behind-ish because it's a visit coming up, and my girlfriend's coming down to visit for a week, and we're just going to chill, relax, and do a whole bunch of stuff. Like, we're going to play Dragonstorm. We're going to play, we're going to play some Commander. We're going to play some box openings. We're going to play some going to wrestling shows and whatnot. Like, we're going to be living it up for a week. So, so we're going to be busy, and I really don't feel like editing while she's here. So, Grinding Gear Games, GGG, Path of Exile 2, 0.2.0 is, I'm still holding firm that it will be analyzed. I think it should be analyzed in business classes on not only what not to do when it comes to like releasing a patch and an update to a very successful early access game, but what to do when you screw that up. Because to their credit, for the most part, GGG has been pretty open, relatively speaking, comparative to the last few years that GGG's been, and they've also been on top of things. I'm not in the beginning part of the video when I was a little more thoughtful about things and not in the moment, I neglected, I said in that day after thoughtful moment, I'm never going to mock the day one, day two goof 'em ups that happen with the game code itself, like where crashes happen and stuff is just shutting down for some reason and stuff's not working because early day stuff. That's okay. Remember, we are playtesting this game here. We all tend to forget that from time to time. I did as well for a bit. But also, it didn't launch in a very good, healthy manner for beginning campaign, and apparently Endgame was where stuff started picking up, if you can get there. But to GGG's credit, they've been on top of it. There's been, like, at this point, 12 to 14 hot fixes that have fixed a few of the serious things. They're also looking at map sizes. They're also looking into other things as well. And then yesterday, literally while I was editing the podcast, so way past the point that I can like actually go back and undo some things and edit things out, Zizarin had basically the two big developers on, Jonathan and the other guy who I forgot his name already, and that's on me. But it was a contentious over 2 hour discussion between both sides, to the point that Jonathan even apologized for his bad attitude in the beginning of the interview. He said he woke up on the wrong side of the bed, but I can't blame the guy. Like, they have been under an enormous amount of fire for this. So they were like kind of snarky and spitey, and they were still holding onto their guns. Like, hey, we don't think certain parts that you think is wrong. But we have to understand that when the vast majority of the player base is saying these things. So it was it's an awe-inspiring interview, because you would think for a quote-unquote Path of Exile GGG shill that it would be softball after softball after softball. But no, Zizarin, to his credit, stood on business, kept it 100, and was firing back. He was firing back at him and giving him a little bit of grief as well. Like, there was a couple times, especially in the beginning, it was like, hey, can I finish what I was about to say? Because I'm not done yet. Like, and it was said in that very, like, bitter tone, like, hey, why are you interrupting me? I'm not even done my question. And it happened vice versa as well. A lot of people praise that conversation as well, because they weren't holding anything back. They weren't trying to be like use corporate speak, if you will, the vast majority of the time. They were showing real human emotions to the point that they even dropped F-bombs. Where it's like, hey, look, the minion boss nerf, the minion thing that we did, that the buff that we did to the minions for the bosses, the ads, basically if you play an MMO or something along those lines where the boss has an additional enemy helpers come out to help him, they massively increase their health pool and speed. And they even said they blanked up on that one. That was a pure 100% blank up on our part. So they weren't holding anything back. And to their credit, as I said, it was slightly contentious a little bit, but both sides understood where the other was coming from. And I think as a fan of the game, hearing that, I understood, or I thought I understood a little bit more. I wasn't like all about it on anything I've said, but I was a little bitter about it. But I think what happened, when they kind of agreed that they hit everything, now that everything got nerfed, now we can buff the things that aren't working. Once again, as I alluded to in the podcast before, GGG tends to overdo it on difficulty spikes of this magnitude, and then we'll fix it later. Because if it works, great, they were correct. But if it doesn't, they can always fix it. And they address certain things too, like certain things we can't do yet, or we have to be extremely careful with, because if we do it, we cannot roll that back. And it was the talk of player movement speed. It is slower, but they said they have to be very careful. You're very careful, because player speed, they noticed the speedrunners, especially the ones that did the race, the Act 1 to 3 race before the beginning of the Dawn of the Hunt, none of them were wearing chest pieces or armor for that matter, because that will slow you down. Like, I think if you wear like chest armor in the game, it slows you down like by like 10% or something like that. So the speed run strat is just to not wear body armor throughout the entire campaign, because you're just going to be running faster. This is the type of thing that I said about why Path of Exile and Path of Exile 2 are hardcore. Do not go blind into it. You want to look up a build guide. They said if we fix speed, say like we overcompensate and make everything 10% faster, and now we're all Sonic the Hedgehogging throughout it, they can never go back to that original speed. Ever. It's locked in. Especially like right now even though it's in early access, you can't undo that. So that I can understand. And then hours later, from this very contentious interview, they post on the forums upcoming changes. Player balance changes. Sorceress. Arc now does Lightning Explosion. Eye of Winter now grants bonus elemental damage. Incinerate, exposure duration. Mana Tempest. They fixed a lot of stuff on the Sorceress class. Apparently Sorceress was just a dead class. I was playing Lich and Minions, they buffed again. They buffed, but I don't think it's been significantly buffed enough. Nothing of me got touched because it was Essence Drain, and that was actually running pretty good. I think Essence Drain is running the way it's supposed to be. So that's why I'm going to kind of keep playing the Essence Drain as my starter, because it's running the way it's supposed to be, I feel. Like, my crowd control needs to be Contagion into Essence Drain. Yeah, it's Contagion into Essence Drain, because then the way I have Contagion, and I'm probably saying that word wrong, do not care. When I hit him with the chaos damage of Essence Drain, it spreads out to the rest of the group. So once I got that wrapped around my head, it made it a little easier, and I was like, okay, this class is working. Bleed Chaos Inoculation. They fixed bleed. Apparently, having Energy Shield prevents bleeding, and if you're a bleed build, that's really bad, because you're not bleeding and or being bled, because you have to do both things to maximize the amount of damage. Huntress Specific changes was parried enemies can no longer evade your attack, which was happening apparently, and I didn't even know about that. You're not supposed to be able to dodge if you've been parried, and they said that when they announced Dawn of the Hunt. Spear stuck in enemies by rapid assault now always bleeds on hit when you detonate it, and AoE has been increased by 20% and detonate does 67% more damage. Spear field spear duration has been increased from 10 seconds to 6, and it has damage growth increased, dealing 30% more damage by level 20. So it scales. Herald of Blood no longer deletes the corpses of rares or uniques, allowing you to use ritual sacrifice on the rares to get those extra buffs. Warrior specific, mainly the Smith of Katava now adds 3 empowerments per strike your weapon and is 25% faster. The damage might need to come down a little bit, and that's okay. Every Smith of Katava Ascendancy class warrior loves this. To the point that I might actually start playing Smith of Katava now because I think it's actually an interesting build. Shield Wall is now detonatable with War Cries, and Armor Break being applied to players by monsters no longer has 20% extra physical damage modifier that was intended to only be a buff to players. We have also reduced its duration from 4 seconds to 12, from 4 seconds from 12 seconds. In addition, there was a bug where partial armor breaks were never removed on the player, so they fixed the armor break for warriors. Then the Rangers, which I have not played a Ranger yet this season. I haven't played anything except for Witch. Stormcaller Arrow now proliferates. Lightning Rod damage has been increased. Lightning Arrows had the radius increased by 50%. And Tornado Shots duration is now increased to 15 seconds. They're adding a new support gem, and they updated that. Support gem is called Inhibitor, which prevents charges from being consumed but increases the damage of the supported skill by 4% for each type of charge you have. This is, I think, a Huntress thing. And then they added Update. We have since found that the implementation for the increased damage per type of charge to not be feasible in the time frame that we want the support gem to be released. And the core of the design of the support is an important tool to get into the hands of players. So we will be releasing it without that stat present. Okay. They feel if they release that gem now as they want to, it's not going to work and it's going to be really bad, and then they have to nerf again. Which they said they don't want to nerf mid-season. Deliriums now last 2.5 times longer. The crafting, they've added several artificer orbs to fix locations throughout the campaign to allow you to craft with them more. Artificer orbs give you sockets for the runes. They're also adding additional runes for attributes for early game fixing requirements. That's fantastic. And updating all runes to apply to wands and staves, which can't happen. You cannot have a rune in the wand or the staff. And that was kind of like the drawback, but also the wand and staves give you abilities. Like the staves for minions, you need the build that gives you access to summon minion skeleton for free. So that's why we always felt that it was okay not having the rune words on those particular weapons. Finding rares on the map is now, if a rare drops on the map, it'll always be on the map. They've changed them a lot in waterways, which is one of the more contentious maps because of the length, but now you have to go and hit all these different levers, and sometimes it takes 20-30 minutes to complete. A little bit of over-exaggerating, I might add. But now, because you have to hit levers, now they've reduced the number of levers that you have to hit by 6. Don't worry about it. The levers, it's a linear path. You cannot get lost in the lot in waterways. It's just, it's going from like hitting 20 levers to now 14, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it is. Monster speed. They are working on they're currently doing a pass. They're doing a check to investigate what monsters are causing these issues. They're going to talk about it later on today, apparently, but the changes are likely to be targeted at specific monsters that are too difficult, especially in zones that have a lot of fast monsters. So expect not every monster to be slowed down, but the problem child monsters, i.e., I think the ones that are causing the stun locks, then you get swarmed and die, to be the hits that get hit. And then there was an exploit in Ritual, which basically gave people infinite amounts of rerolls, so you can defer all the prime currency and or gems and jewels and rings and amulets. It was very small. They banned the 301 accounts that were clearly exploiting this. Now remember, you could say, oh, it wasn't an exploit. Yes, it is. It is an exploit. You're actually supposed to be reporting this. That's called early access. You're bug testing the game, and when you find a bug that is an exploit like that, you are supposed to report it. Hey, look, I can do this. And GGG, to their credit, said we screwed that up. There was no reason for it to go on for 8 hours after it was discovered by us. There was just a miscommunication in team. That's on us. But 301 accounts were banned for the rest of the season, so they can't play unless they want to make a new account and spend $30, which some of them probably will. But yeah, like if you see exploits, if you see weird shenanigans happen like this, treat it as if it's a weapon that's not working correctly. Treat it as if it's a driver of your graphics card issue happening. Treat it if it's like constantly crashing when you hit the X button in your menus. You report it so they can fix it. You don't try to sit there and manipulate it. I have a feeling there's a couple people that have been playing WoW instead of this because of that very reason. Because some of these people also do have histories of exploiting and not reporting. See, you can do the exploit every now and again, once in a while, once or twice maybe. You see, oh, that worked? Okay, let me report it. Like, I didn't think it was going to work the second time. And if it worked the second time and then you report it, cool, it's more likely get out of jail free card, if you will. But if you've managed to accumulate entire tabs full of these items by this exploit and you're just hoarding it like you're Smog, then yeah, get banned, baby. And the first comment, permaban them. Look, it's early access. It's a thin line, but the problem is they didn't report it. Or they reported it and continued to do it ad nauseum, thinking that they were going to get, because they reported it, they weren't going to get away with it. That was hours after the interview, which was taking place while I was editing today's. The episode is dropping today, actually dropping in 2 minutes from now, and hours after that. So this is why I tend not to cover many video game things or do podcasts early. I even delayed it and waited until as long as possible to do it because news was just happening left and right when it came to Dawn of the Hunt. And then even more news is coming out, and even more news I know is coming out today because of this, what we're working on, upcoming changes on top of the what we're working on post. So to GGG's credit, they are fixing this game. They are fixing what has been done to the best of their abilities. But key takeaways here is you can scream all you want. Eventually, it's going to be an echo chamber of yourself and the other screamers. We all forget that this is early access, and part of that, we're supposed to be reporting issues that happen. And these people are human beings. Yeah, I wasn't happy, but I wasn't going to attack their personal character. I was just like, I can't believe you thought this was good. But once again, we're all human. We all fall into that trap every now and again. I did to an extent. And I've used to be the rage person, rage gaming. I used to rip off angry video game nerds style on my content that I used to do on a YouTube channel. That if you find it, leave a thumbs up for this Addendum video here. My name is Dom Douglas from Max Heroes and Villains, and I just needed to put this out because it is a ongoing thing, and it will be an ongoing thing for, I think, the next couple of weeks. But Path of Exile 0.2.0, hotfix number 15, 16, 17 are going to drop in the next couple of days, and you know what? GGG is doing a hell of a job. They screwed up, and they're fixing it. It's early access. Get over yourselves. May your top deck always be mythic. I can't find the record button.